Hi everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you my process for creating a stained glass panel. And right now I'm just starting with cutting the glass. This is going to be a piece with a rock climber woman who is climbing on an overhung wall over water and with some other kind of mountains in the background. This was, I think, my second piece that I designed myself. So still learning the lesson of not creating pieces that are too small in my designs, but I was already committed, so I made it work. And here I am just getting those last tiny pieces cut up and then kind of seeing the initial fit. So once I cut it all up, I'm gonna start with grinding my glass, which is what I'm doing here. And this can take a while. I didn't record everything that I was doing, and I also sped it up to like 4 or 5 times the speed. So it takes quite a long time, but it's so worth it. That's why stained glass is so addictive, because every part is so tedious and takes so long, and by the time it's finished, you just appreciate it that much more. And it's just the material itself is so beautiful. So I'm starting with some of these bigger pieces and then moving on to some of the smaller pieces. And you'll see that this piece, this is my second video that I put up. So first of all, I'm sorry that I don't have more of the process recorded, because I wasn't even sure if I was actually going to be uploading videos about my stained glass process, but I started taking some videos just in case I did want to share, and now I'm actually really enjoying creating these videos. But anyways, this is my second piece, but it's also my second video, and the first video I put up was my most recent piece, which I would say is my best skill so far. It's the best piece I've made. So I would say the quality of this piece is a little bit lower than the stained glass Mount Hood mountain that I did. So you can check out that video if you want to see kind of the progress of skills. So once they were all grinded, I made sure that they fit, and then I started to take off the stickers and kind of doing another fit check before I clean them. So that's what I'm doing here. And I always love this part of the process because you can finally see what the image actually looks like. Before this part, you kind of just have to imagine what it looks like. You have to imagine how the colors are going to interact. And I learned so much from this project in terms of choosing colors and contrast. So you can see in the bottom left corner, there's a little blue piece. So there's obviously kind of that like almost hazy, like dusty blue as the sky. And then there's a brighter blue in the bottom left. That is supposed to be water in the background. And what I figured out once I finished this project is that you can hardly distinguish the two blues when it's against the window, so you don't really notice that. So that was one thing I learned about color, is that there needs to be more of a contrast. And then similarly, you can't really see it yet, but you'll see it later. The clothing that I chose for her in this piece is this dusty purple, and it's not that it looks bad, but if I were to redo it, I would pick something that has more of a contrast with the blue sky so that it stands out more and so that she pops more. That being said though, I did use a light green for her helmet, for her chalk bag, and her shoes. So that kind of did add some nice contrast, and I'm happy with that color choice. And I chose this really streaky kind of brownish beige stained glass for the rocks and the mountains. I wanted something that had some depth and texture because I wasn't splitting it up into a lot of pieces. and it also had some blue streaks in it. And that's something that I try to do, is combining colors where sometimes just like a tiny little like piece of a color will be in a stained glass piece and other people might not notice it. But to me, it kind of ties in the whole thing. So this whole piece, my focus was on cooler tones, and even with the green, it's not like a really warm green, it's kind of a cooler minty green, and the blues are cooler toned, and then yeah. But as I said, you don't really see how it interacts until you finally put everything together, which we'll see right here. So now you can kind of see the close-up of some of the colors that I was mentioning. And, you know, I think this is pretty good for a first piece. And now I'm cleaning them while watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I do watch a lot of TV while I'm creating stained glass pieces. However, I started reading Fahrenheit 451, and that has inspired me to interact with media less. So I might switch to audiobooks while I'm crafting. So now I'm foiling the glass. So this is a copper foil with an adhesive side. And sometimes the longer pieces, even though they're straight, can be the hardest ones to perfectly align, just because, I don't know why, just because it's longer and you have to align it perfectly. And if you're even a millimeter off, then one side is going to be a lot thicker than the other side. So I'm starting with that first piece and then just making sure that it's nice and secure, and then pushing down the edges and making sure that those are sticking to the side, which is where all that melted solder is going to stick on later. So now, once everything is foiled, I'm putting some masking tape on one side of the piece, and this is just to make sure that it doesn't move around when I'm in the middle of soldering it. So I put quite a bunch on there. And that allows me to flip it over and everything is stuck in place. We're finally ready to solder, so I'm just going right into it. I don't really need to secure the joints initially because I already taped the back, so I know it's not going to move on me. So I'm just getting right into it and covering all of the copper foil with a nice bead of my 60/40 solder. Now what I'm doing is letting some of the solder drip off to the side, and that way I'll have some extra for when I even it all out, and that way I can get a nice bead on the side as well. So now I'm doing the other side, and I apologize, I didn't actually record myself doing that side or the edges, but I did record myself doing the patina. So now I'm applying a black patina, and that changes the color of the solder that we just put on. So you can see it really creates a very different look once you add a patina of any kind. And sometimes it's nice to just keep things silver. For example, I made a snowflake, and silver just worked better for that, but for this one I thought the black was going to look best. And this is the result at nighttime. And then we have the result in the daytime. So this is with the morning sun coming in from the back. I'm happy with the way that it turned out, and one thing that I worked on in my next piece, which was the mountain piece, was evening out the sides to fit together more perfectly, to have more straight and even edges. So you can see it's a little bit lumpy here, but that is something that I worked on my skill set going forward. But I still really love this piece because it reflects one of my favorite hobbies, which is rock climbing. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.